them in. So today we're talking about work experience, which is a really important thing as part of any application to anything related to healthcare industry, whether that be nursing, dentistry, veterinary medicine, or medicine itself. So to start the session, I'm going to leave you with the words, or start with the words of one of the admission officers in the University of Swansea, okay? And he talks about really well about what types of work experience that you could be looking for, and what types of work experience that you can find in a COVID situation. Okay, can you see the video, the screen share?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's make that start.
We've got a fairly unpleasant looking slide here with a lot of small text on it. It's just our way of trying to explain that the sorts of work experience we're looking for doesn't, like I said, just require having shadowed a doctor in a traditional doctor's setting. Care homes, special needs centres, holiday centres for people with disabilities and so on, church groups and youth groups and scouts where you're helping people, particularly if they're under difficult or less privileged circumstances, caring responsibilities, evidence of responsibility and leadership in a work setting. We're conscious that, particularly at the current time, I'll come on to this in a second, it's difficult for people to get lots of face-to-face work experience, but have they worked? Can they demonstrate that they've had to lead other people and taken on responsibility? And then some of the school and college experience is still important. Like I said, it helps demonstrate some of those other characteristics, and please don't dismiss it. But if you can get the people-focused stuff at the top, then your applicants can get the people-focused stuff at the top, then they're going to be in better shape. And we also advise people to keep a reflective log, keep a note of the sorts of experiences you've had, almost like a diary on a day-to-day, week-by-week basis. Reflect on what you've learned from your experience, and that will help you process it and then speak to it in a more clear and concise way in an interview. Now, obviously, for almost a year now, things have been very different. It has been very challenging for people to get experience, and the experience they've been able to get has been focused on one thing and one thing only. We often get asked questions about, is it going to matter? It's not. But that's not to say that experience doesn't matter. It's just, it will help you to get a different type of experience. If you can't get into to shadow someone or to get into a care home and work, don't give up on trying to get experience. Try and get some virtual work experience. There's lots of virtual clinics and other ways of delivering caring and support roles in a virtual way. See if you can get involved in those. See if you can contact and network with people who work in the profession, and in particular with current medical students. Things like Unibody that's on the Swansea University homepage. There are medical students and Pathways to Medicine students available to chat a lot of the time to potential applicants, to talk through what their experience is like, to get a better understanding. And we even advise people to set up a LinkedIn profile, expand a network, communicate with people that way. All you can do to get a better sense of what being a doctor is all about. And again, we advise people it's quality, not quantity. The sorts of being able to demonstrate what an applicant has learned from the experience is more important than being able to say, I did 3 months here or 2 months there.
If we learn nothing else from today's session, it is these basic things. Working in care, people interfacing role is key, okay? Getting some sort of work experience is really vital, but it's not a case of trying to gain as much different work experience as you can and tick off a list. It's about how you reflect upon the experience that you have. That is key. What have you learned from it? You could shadow a doctor, but then not really learn that much, whereas you might learn more about yourself in a caregiving role if you help out people in a care home, or if you help some elderly people in the pandemic deal with their basic needs in home that may be stuck and sheltering at home. So at the end of the day, people-focused roles are very important. Demonstrate a caring approach. You can use school and work experience outside of healthcare industry as well, but that's really there to supplement what you're trying to achieve in the healthcare setting. And also there are tons of alternatives as well, virtual work experience type of programs. In that little clip, they talked about how Observe GP is a good online course fit for you to do. Students last year were looking at the Brighton and Sussex medical work experience. Both are very good. Okay, so here is the website for the Observe GP. It's very similar to the Brighton and Sussex. It's interactive though. So there's a lot of interactive kind of features involved in this. So please do look at this website. There are links to this in the PSL, which I'll show you in a little while as well. And for those who are wondering what the Brighton and Sussex virtual work experience is, this is the virtual work experience course that you can do. And both of these courses are self-paced. Both you can find links on the PSL under work experience tab, and they help you understand a whole array of things that you'd need to know working in healthcare. Understand how the NHS system works, which is very useful for students that are looking to work in healthcare within the UK. But also, if you're looking further afield in Europe and or the US, that is also, it still is relevant, because the first section, yes, focuses on the NHS and the nuances of the NHS and how the system works. But further on down, the middle and the later parts focuses on how to, focuses on relevant aspects worldwide on what you'd need as a doctor or working in the healthcare profession. Okay, so that is my first major bit of advice: is go to a virtual work experience, self-paced, self-directed. You don't need the school to be helping you step by step through that. That's completely down to you, and you can show a little bit of initiative in your application by the fact that you've chosen to work on this independently. And a lot of the students really enjoyed doing this last year. And if you've done the Brighton and Sussex already, then look at Observe GP as an addition to add to your portfolio of virtual work experience. But on top of these courses, in terms of virtual work experience, you heard the admissions guy for the medical school in Swansea just talk about how you can actually be quite proactive by helping people virtually as well. So you can do things such as try to help people that are struggling in lockdown virtually as well. So there are options for you to do some care virtually as well. In the PSL page in the Medic Society, if you find the tab that says Intro, Club and Work Experience, if we click on that, all the information that I'm going to share with you now is going to basically be found in here today. So there's a link to Moresby forms. You can reflect upon your experiences that you have within the Moresby forms. In fact, I'll show you that now. There's my Moresby. Here we are. So in Moresby, you can see your profile, careers, options at 16 plus and 18 plus and planner. But what I'm really focusing on is the forms section here. So if you click onto the forms section, you'll now see there's a form for work experience log. If you click onto the work experience log, in there, it'll have a range of different questions and a field for you to populate. Okay, so things such as talking about the type of business, your first impressions, what jobs you were asked to do, what you enjoyed the most about that work experience, the challenges that you faced, the skills that you gained, the knowledge that you gained as well as being able to reflect upon your own experience, your performance itself, and for you to evaluate further. So the idea is for each individual piece of work experience that you have, to go in and to fill out one of these forms to basically be as reflective as you can in the experience. That's a good way for you to record what you're doing in those work experience placements that you find. So that's the first link in the PSL for you to be aware of. Then a very good read is a guide to work experience in general in the NHS. So this is created by the NHS, and it gives a lot more detail than what we're going to cover today in our brief 30-minute session. And that's a very good read for you to kind of learn a little bit more in the details. And it has some good links as well for you to start seeking out some opportunities as well. Next, we have some volunteering websites in the PSL page. These are, I've actually opened up these pages. So here's nextdoor.co.uk. You could develop a profile and search for volunteering work in here, okay, on this website. We've got a doit.org that doesn't seem to be loading today, but that's another website. We've got Volunteering Matters here as well. You can help to respond to COVID-19. You can be a volunteer to help be part of the solution here. Okay, so when I talk about volunteering and helping people in the community, to those that are struggling due to the COVID restrictions, this is a place where you can access some opportunities in there. And also we've got the NCVO website as well. In here, you'll be able to access some opportunities as well. So these are all volunteering websites that you can find. And then in the PSL page, as I scroll down, we've got some direct guidance, how to gain the relevant work experience in COVID-19. It's a very succinct, direct, straightforward read. We will have, by the end of this session, covered most of this, but it's also a good way to go back and to have a look. They've got the, as you can see, the Brighton work experience course there. It's also got the Observe GP course there as well. This is being repeated upon multiple sources across the kind of educational advice bracket, where many people are saying these are the two for you to be looking at. What type of work experience does each medical school want from you? So you can look at every individual medical school and find out what type of work experience specifically they're looking for in their applicants. So that's a very useful bit of information for you to look through. So here we can see that King's would normally expect applicants to have undertaken some voluntary work experience in caring or health environment or observe a medical clinical setting. It's important for applicants to have a realistic appreciation of a career as a health professional. Really, it's all driving students to having a greater understanding of the profession and of themselves, okay? And then after that, there's a good read with a range of different things that I'm actually going to go through on a separate presentation in a second on the value of work experience and different areas you can get work experience and so on. At the bottom of this page, so that will take you down to the bottom of the page. At the bottom of the page, you will find that there's actually a link to a project work experience course as well by Education Projects. And this is the page that has the medical projects. They're actually doing this online this year. If you are applying in the year after this or future years, you may find that there may be in-person sessions, which is what this has usually been geared towards, this particular course. So this is another avenue to gain more experience. And in the past, I found students have found this very useful as well. Without further ado, I think it's best for me to share with you my work presentation. So hopefully that gives you a range of resources. Now, why do we need work experience? Well, the GMC, which is the General Medical Council, states that students can gain practical experience and find out more about the career through observation. So it's important to observe as well as to learn about and reflect about your own experience and learn about the industry from your point of view. So it helps to show an understanding about what a career in medicine or veterinary medicine or dentistry will entail. There's a lot of time to be invested in a student on a course. So it's really important for you to be aware of what you're actually getting yourself into. And universities and medical schools really want to have you demonstrate that you really understand what you're going to be undertaking and show a commitment to the subject. What sort of work experience is important to medical schools? Well, they need to be people-focused, give a realistic understanding of the emotional and the physical aspects about being a medical profession. There are a lot of emotional demands on working in healthcare, and physical as well, because you have long shifts. So if you can demonstrate that you can be fully committed, as well as demonstrate that you have resilience, then this is really key, and that's what they want to see. They also want to see other essential values for being a good doctor and other healthcare worker being demonstrated from your work experience. So things such as good communication skills, teamwork, and organization. Some of these skills can be demonstrated, things that you do in school, such as your clubs, or things that you do within class as well. If you want to learn a little bit more about the NHS values, then there is a link for you to click. I know you can't click it from here because this will be essentially a video when other students are viewing this, but you can see the link directly in the PSL website. Any links that you see in this presentation are found directly under that tab of Intro to Club and Work Experience. So the take-home points about the importance of work experience is it helps you with an understanding about what the career entails, and also shows that you've got the skills and attributes that they're looking for. So what can work experience offer you? It gives you a realistic understanding about the realities of the career, helps you understand how the multidisciplinary team will operate. So that means you will have a range of different roles to support a particular patient on average. You have a nurse, you may have somebody that does the x-rays, somebody that talks to you about, to communicate about what your issues are. You have a doctor prescribing specific medicines. So you have this, the whole array of different professionals that will be helping a patient that goes to a hospital or a private patient outside of hospital. It also helps you to understand your abilities and limitations within a healthcare setting. I personally found that when I was doing, in the 90s, when I was doing a work experience within the hospital, I found that I wasn't very apt or happy about dealing with blood and kind of lesions and cuts and so on. So I, at a very early stage, learnt that there's certain things within a medical setting that I wouldn't really kind of work well in. Recently, I've done a little bit of a personality check and an interest check on the NHS careers website, and that's come up as I'm a bit better off on the science side in the medical healthcare profession, one where in effect I don't get my hands dirty, and a nutritionalist as well. So these are two fields that kind of like work for me and my interests. So it is really important to understand your limitations. Okay, I'd be no good at going into a medical course knowing that I don't like to cut up, skin or see blood. Okay, so just bearing in mind that can help make sure that you are on the right path by doing the work experience. It also helps you to create a network of contacts who you can ask for further work experience or help from in the future as well. So what can work experience teach you about yourself? And it gives you an insight about your strengths and weaknesses, as we've kind of mentioned and covered, to see if you feel comfortable working within the healthcare environment, and also to see if you're a good communicator or team player. So how does it work? Well, where possible, hospitals will try to facilitate work experience for people that want to enter the profession. And that can come in the form of giving volunteering or shadowing of clinical experience. So you may shadow a doctor or volunteer to help out. So for example, you might volunteer and go around a ward and take down the food options of patients. That's what I did when I was 16 to 17. Whereas now, I guess these days, when my mum's gone into hospital, there were these menu selection cards with a touchscreen. So, but you will find something equivalent where you literally can just be in the setting, volunteering, helping out, because they're always short-staffed, but something that doesn't require a lot of knowledge initially. So shadowing is when you follow doctors or other professionals around in their daily duties, and it can give you an insight into what their role entails. Volunteering can be in a hospital. It's usually a weekly commitment for a number of months to allow you to gain experience in a caring role, which is necessary for all applicants. And it also allows you to gain a bit of a deeper understanding of working in a hospital too. A lot of NHS trusts will not allow people under 16 to be part of the clinical environment. However, once you hit 16, that is, will be allowed to go in to volunteer and to help out. So that kind of works quite nicely for you when you're looking for the work experience for your application. Now, how does it work? Well, hospital volunteering, I feel like I've kind of touched upon this already. So some examples, so I won't go into the kind of talking about this, but basically you don't get paid. Some examples you might do is assisting with meals, preparing over tables, cutting food, encouraging a patient to eat and drink, and patient feeding as well. Delivering and collecting items from other departments, talking to patients. I had a student that has applied for nursing this year that found that they went to hospital setting, they volunteered, and they found that one of the patients, they actually knew the same people. And this particular patient was quite challenging in following advice from the nurses there. They wouldn't eat, they wouldn't take the medicines and so on. But when this 16, 17-year-old student developed the rapport and made that patient feel a lot more comfortable, they found that that patient was then more likely to start taking their medicine and listening to the advice of the nurses. So just from a student that went in as a volunteer can still, not only do you gain something from the experience, but you can also be helping and assisting and giving an impact in the environment as well. So bear that in mind. And that enabled the student to write an excellent reflection on their experience as well. Remember, all of this feeds back to your quality. So as you heard in the video, that quality is really important in terms of the reflection. What did you gain from the experience? How do you write about that experience? Talking to patients, okay? That's a very, very important volunteering role to have, to be honest. Distributing ward leaflets or information to new patients, helping to make beds, and general tidying of the bed area. These are all things that can be done in a hospital setting when volunteering. So how would you organize a hospital work experience? There are an array of different links for you to follow on the PSL page, and this is one of them, linking you to the ultimate guides to work experience and volunteering. And on there are a range of links. Now, just to be aware that you won't necessarily be given a placement just for asking to the first place that you ask, okay? So please remember to be persistent, resilient, but remain polite and keen to learn. So a summary of where to find a hospital work experience, check out the Trust websites, NHS Trust websites, okay? You can just Google NHS Trust websites near me. For any volunteering or shadowing schemes, use your own contact, family, friends, school, okay? PSL links. Contact professionals directly and don't be shy, don't be put off by rejection. You will find somewhere in the end if you continue with your persistence. How many hours should you get? Well, there's no right answer to this. Medical schools don't specify an exact amount of time. What is important is what you gain from the experience, how you reflect upon it, okay? So again, the quality over quantity argument rings true here. Note down specific examples that interest you. No matter what you're doing, you can make it count. Reflect upon the examples. What did you see? What did you learn? Add it into Moresby, okay? Be reflective on your work experience as a take-home message. If you've only managed to get one afternoon shadowing a doctor, is this okay? Is a common question. Well, it's not the longest amount of time in the world that you could still learn from the experience, but you can still reflect upon it. But I would say you'd need to supplement that with a range of other things, such as the virtual work experience and so on. Now, I'm aware that we're at 10:30, so if anybody wants to sign off because they've got something else to do, I'm okay with that, and the recording will be there available to you as well. So even with all this considered, how much should you be aiming for? Well, medical schools understand that it's hard to get shadowing experience. So they don't expect you to have a shadowing experience, but it is good in supporting your application. They do expect something. Demonstrating that you have shown evidence in trying to gain shadowing is important as well if you haven't got any shadowing experience. And I know that in the COVID climate, it would be quite difficult to gain that, but if you can, you would definitely stand out. Now, work experience alternatives. I feel that we've really covered this, actually, the alternatives, through what I've said. So just take a little bit of time to read the bit at the PSL page towards the bottom under the title Work Experience Alternatives, okay? We'll look at kind of what the COVID situation means to your application. In order for you to best prepare for an application as well, not only do you need work experience, but it's very important that you spend time reading and exploring a range of NHS hot topics. So there's actually a tab in the PSL page as well that where there's a webinar on hot topics and a link to a web page that allows you to explore a range of different hot topics as well. And I'll show you that in a second at the end. Okay, so reading as well, further reading is really important as well. And here are the words from a senior tutor at the Medics portal. Remember that your academics are still your priority during this time. Although it's really useful to try a few of the activities that we've mentioned, really quite important, do make sure that you can still maintain this alongside your studies, which is your main focus. And I think that is really the key message. As I'd mentioned, the PSL page for hot topics, I'll just find that. Hot topics. So underneath the interviews tab, hot topics, read to prepare for interviews. If you select this, then you will see a webinar that explores the notion of hot topics and how to prepare for it for interviews. And then below a link to then, that link will take you to a range of articles under all of these different titles. So, you know, COVID-19, vaccinations and the NHS, Brexit and the NHS, BAME and the NHS, which is ethnic minorities and work within the NHS, public health, abortion. So it explores a whole range of big topics. Accident and emergency in crisis is A&E going through issues right now. The junior doctor contract, mental health, and so on. So you can see that there's a whole range of stuff. Antibiotic usage is quite interesting as well, because as a well-traveled person, I found that there are some places in the world that basically you can buy antibiotics over the counter. That is not good because it enables the evolution of bacteria to then become resistant to antibiotics. And so whatever we're doing, for example, in the West with all of our guidelines, that might be kind of being done in vain due to other countries really not having the same kind of like standards with antibiotics, for example. So that's quite an interesting kind of one thing that I find interesting anyway, just due to my experience traveling to Asia, Southeast Asia. So yeah, a range of stuff with hot topics. That's another thing that you can be doing as well as gaining as much volunteering and work experience as you can. Okay, so hopefully that's helped. The go-to message is everything's in the PSL, everything you can find under this tab. Spend time looking at it. Don't just only drop into the sessions, you know, but also spend time working independently and reading and exploring these websites as well. There are tons of links here that will help you gain your work experience and volunteering, okay? Come along next week, this time next week, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. See you later.